What's going on, folks? It's your boy again, Dr. Sean Thomas, back in the building. Be More Today Show Season 4. We are back in the building. Happy New Year to each and every last one of you. It's been a journey going through 2022, and now we're in 2023. Excited for newness, excited for greatness, and excited to be more today. As you already know, Be More Today is a movement. We are everywhere on Facebook, on Instagram. So please follow us and subscribe. We appreciate you being a part of our journey. BeMoreToday.com is everything from my book to our podcast to our swag store, our more merch. Go on there. And of course, on YouTube, you can find the show as well. Be More Today on YouTube. Please check us out. We are now heard in 69 countries, over 34,000 downloads. It's all thanks to your love and support that we continue to keep this movement going. My quote for today is simple as always. When you hold on to the why, the what and the how take care of themselves. Come on, folks. 2023 is that time. We are trying to figure out what our why is. And some of you already know. And you've made moves to push forward, to be great, to start new things, to end bad things, whatever the case may be. But when you hold on to the why, right? The what and the how, those things are going to happen regardless. You're going to find a way to push through. You're going to find a way to figure out your legacy, your newness, your greatness, your business, your book, your class, your whatever. You're going to figure that thing out, but you got to figure out your why. What that thing is going to be for you, and why are you going to be on this earth to make a difference in this world? And each of us has something that we can do, right? Can contribute to make this thing great. And as we start this new year, I encourage you, I implore you to go out there and just figure out how you're going to be better for those around you, not just for yourself, but for those around you, to make whatever you have, your skill set, your training, your experiences, a part of the greater picture to make this place a better place. And my guest for today's show is the embodiment of that. He is a two-timer on this show now. He was with us for a previous season, back in season 2, March of 2021. And he's back now with a new attitude and a new title. His name is Dr. now, David Bruton. Now, Dr. David Bruton Jr. is a former athlete turned physical therapist. Graduated from the University of Colorado in 2021. So he is a new grad, but doing great things now in the community. David is the founder of Bruton's Books, a childhood literacy foundation, and Between the Lines Physical Therapy. David was a former safety for the Denver Broncos for 7 years and a 1 year with the Washington Redskins football team, or Washington football team now. And during his tenure with the Broncos, he was the captain for 3 years and won Super Bowl 50. If you guys remember from the show, we talked about that. After retirement, David followed his heart towards a lifelong passion for the profession of what I love, physical therapy, and having a collaborative relationship with patients to help them return to their prior level of function and beyond. David's passion for providing great healthcare has ignited, and it was ignited as a youth playing sports, where his PTs throughout every single page of his playing career helped him achieve and return to a high level of play. That love was continuously reinforced throughout the physical therapists, throughout college and professionally. And Dr. Bruton has been dedicating his life to educating himself in order to provide the best patient care through multiple certifications and seeking further learning opportunities. He's also an active member of the Scholarship Endowment Board at CU and is co-president of the CU PT Alumni Association. Aside from his love for PT, David loves his wife and kids, cycling, working out, board games, snowboarding, and giving back to the community. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, pets included, please welcome to the stage again, but now as a doctor, for the first guest for season 4, Dr. David Bruton. Dr. David, what is going on?
Man, oh shoot. You done told the whole world what's going on, the 69 countries that you're in. No, shoot, I'm doing well. Just out here in Colorado, we got a little bit of snow, but nothing like Buffalo, or so count my blessings there, because the kids have to go to school.
Absolutely. Listen, you were on our show for season 2 back in 21. We were still growing at that time. Now we're on season 4, and I've seen your journey. Again, I'm thankful for the downstate community here in Brooklyn for helping us to meet each other. And we met through a program we were mentoring some younger people who were trying to be great. And we connected and we had you on the show. We talked about being in school and being a Super Bowl champ and what you want to do with concussion therapy and everything else. And now you are here living the dream. So, Dr. Bruton Jr., what does it feel like? How has the journey been? You are now a full-fledged doctor of physical therapy. What's going on? How's it feeling?
Man, it was insane. It's still surreal that it's almost a year since I've had my license and been a practicing physical therapist. I remember from when we had that last show to taking boards, like a lot has changed. My wife and I were having a kid again. She's now 1, but she was born September 1st. My boards was October 30th. So I didn't start studying until September 1st because I was also in clinical. So I just had a lot of things going on, but by the grace of God and, some true discipline and actually locking myself in a room to study, I was able to get it done. So with that, after passing the boards and graduating, kind of decided after having a good conversation with my wife to, do our own thing and open up a clinic here in Denver. More so because I've seen the way how healthcare works and how insurance can get ugly and, the limitations that are placed on some PT practices, especially new startups with credentialing or, reimbursement and things of that nature. It just didn't seem feasible to do a insurance-based PT clinic or fall into line with a lot of the other clinics out here because it's just a mill. And I wanted to avoid being a mill. I wanted to avoid PT burnout with whether that's myself, potential PT will bring on here in the future. I didn't want to lose the authenticity and love and passion for it. I wanted to keep that creative mindset and just having that brain fresh no matter who walks through the door.
Yo, you're speaking to me real loud right now. I don't know if you noticed at all. So I was contemplating my listeners and I was contemplating going on my own and doing my own therapy thing last year sometime. And I was getting some things together. I was actually looking at commercial real estate and seeing what's going on with the same mindset you're talking about, looking at reimbursement rates, looking at PT burnout, looking at healthcare in America and just how it's so volume based and just, I wanted something different, I wanted something just better. And I was this close to signing a lease actually in a place that was downtown Brooklyn. And then I had a change of heart and I talked to my wife and we had a discussion and my job actually and I spoke about just trying to make sure that we could change the structure a little bit for all clinicians to feel like they weren't just going out there and just seeing people, but really being able to apply their skill set and being able to really give that one-on-one or at least quality care, to our clients. Because again, like you say, that's something that we as students, we look forward to. You learn anything in school, you want to come out and you want to give your best, give your all to anyone and everyone you meet. And sometimes based on where you are, either where you're working or the environment you're working in, that's not always feasible. It's not always the case. So we made some changes on our end as well. I don't have my own practice yet, but it's still in the mix. And I love hearing stories of people like you who said, you know what, let's just flip the script and just do this. So I give you kudos. And I really want to talk about between the lines. I know you and I talked about you doing your own thing. And many people say, yeah, I want to do my own thing. But to do it is different than just saying it. And now you're actually doing it. So talk to us and the listeners about Between the Lines PT, what it is, where it's located, and what makes you so special or makes it so special compared to other places in the area.
Between the Lines Physical Therapy is my baby. Played around with a lot of different names for the clinic. And, I wanted to be a sports-based PT clinic that had a concussion focus. And, we're always talking about go hard between the lines, play to the whistle, things of that nature. So just these adages and sayings that I would hear throughout my whole playing career is why that name stuck. So we were actually seeing people out of either our house or at their house for a long period of time. So finding a lease out here in Colorado was tough. And then I was very fortunate enough to work with an old teammate's gym for a few months there where I helped him train as well as treated people out of the gym. And we built a great relationship there. And I'm very appreciative of that relationship. And we landed on a lease finally here August 31st. And Between the Lines, it's just we've been designing it, building it out. We have a gym because I've always wanted a PT clinic with a gym. Like I'm a firm believer that you're not going to see any change unless you stress the system. Like I don't believe that you can stress the system solely off of TheraBand. Maybe as an intro deal, but for life, like we do nothing with a TheraBand. Everything is your weight and gravity. So if you can tolerate more than your weight and gravity, then you're going to set yourself up for better success and able to handle different stressors. Things of that nature. Be careful, babe. All right, Lily knocked down something. Yeah, so I kind of follow the mantra. We kind of have that mindset of reset, relearn, and reinforce here at Between the Lines, where we utilize that hour-long treatment session that's geared towards, the first 20, 25 minutes is geared towards resetting the muscle, whether that's addressing mobility, whether that's addressing trigger points, improving activation, things of that nature. And then we use that last 35 or so minutes for strength, for relearning how to move, and actually doing it with weight and with some type of stress, some type of cognitive deal, something that puts that stress on that body, just so the body adapts and learns how to do it. Because we never do anything in isolation. Something's always going on. We're always carrying something. You're not just squatting from a toilet, especially if you have a kid, you're squatting and picking up, a 20-some pound baby. So like it's very practical. And I want to keep that in mind as I'm running this PT practice. And now tapping into the concussion thing, that's my baby. Like that's why my career came to an end, that concussion. My final concussion out of the 6 that are on record, no idea how many I actually have had. But that's something that I was very passionate about and knew going into PT school. And I believe we talked about this back in March of 2021. That's what I wanted to do. There was no way I was going to have a PT clinic and not have a concussion room or a focus to it. So we built out this room where we have virtual reality. We utilize the ocular glasses. We're trying to come up with a assessment, a screen before season, whether that includes a brain mapping, includes reactionary time, things of that nature. Because we see that the impact test is flawed, and we've seen it in higher level athletes such as Peyton Manning saying like, yeah, I would just test dumb to passing it just in case. I'm like, Peyton, you'd never test dumb. Like there's no way that Peyton Manning would ever test dumb, but he would kind of fudge the test one way. So if something ever happened, he could go back to it and say, yeah, I'm actually healthy. I'm actually still doing what my baseline is, even though he might have got his bell rung. So I want to do something where we eliminate that chance of that second impact or second concussion syndrome or PCSS or anything like that. Like, because I know the detriment that it can have from me personally. And then I've seen it with former NFL athletes, former teammates as in DT, things that just trying to avoid, putting somebody at risk to have something so detrimental happen in their life.
Yo, that's incredible. I remember our conversations about it, and I remember us talking about the concussions you had, the 6 of them. And I don't think I realized at that time that your career was ending because of the concussions. Remember you talking about them and them being traumatic, clearly, but I didn't recognize that was why, you stepped away from the game. And the fact that you now, with your perspective and your experience, you having experienced concussions and now knowing the background, in terms of therapy, how to treat people who are dealing with these things, dizziness and whatever else, I think it's great. I think it's great because you bring now a very unique perspective to the healthcare system, and you can really tap into a whole demographic of people. We're talking high school, college, pro, that have been through these things and hopefully can prevent these things from happening more in the future. So I salute all you for that thing. And I think that that's going to be a game changer for our field. Because a lot of these things, and I'm sure it sounds like you're doing more like a cash-based system or a hybrid of some sort. But, when it comes to insurances, these things aren't always taken care of. And when it comes to an issue like that, when there's a barrier of any sort, I think people kind of stray away from that and say, well, forget it. It's not a big deal. But then those people will get hurt in the long run, will get hurt in the interim. So you giving access to this care and this service is a game changer. And I'm curious now, as you're talking about the VR stuff that you're doing, and as we saw from and continue to see in the NFL, there were so many things happening this year with concussions being on blast. Literally, just like with social media, you're seeing everything from the Tua situation to others who are just seeing the signs of concussion and the lack of the proper protocols being set in place. So, what are your thoughts as a player, now as a doctor of physical therapy, on how we can handle these situations? What are your thoughts on how the NFL is taking care of and addressing these issues at this time?
I did see from my rookie year on, there has been a change as far as how concussions are treated. Like when I had my very first concussion in the league, I missed 2 weeks of training camp, and all I did was sit in a dark room or stay at home, nothing else going on for a week and a half of it before I started being introduced back into the clinic. Obviously, we see that now there's a shift that's give that first 24, 48 hours of rest, and now you start exposing them to exercise, cognitive testing, things of that nature. So we definitely have seen a shift in that regard. But there is still, a lot of people forget that there is still a power dynamic between the team and the player. And then the doctors have to decide, are we for the team or are we for the player? So there's that professional conundrum, and you're thinking, ethically, you should think about the player. Like the Tua situation, there's no way in hell, and excuse my language, there's no way in hell that you would see that man hit the ground, get up and wobble and collapse again and not think something neuro is going on. Like there's no way. Common sense, people who haven't had a formal education in regards to concussions could see that, could know that. You put it back on the field. 4 days later, you think he's not going to get hit in the head? I mean, don't get me wrong, the Dolphins are playing well, but is their quarterback never going to get touched? No. So, like, you blatantly put him at risk. So, for that doctor, was he working for the team? Was he working for the player? And in that light, he's working for the team. And a lot of teams, I can only speak for so many, but I would assume, like, the team has the greater power. And the league is based on getting back onto the field as quickly as possible. Treatment in the league is more of a triage. Let's slap a Band-Aid on it. Let's get you to feel somewhat better. Can you perform? Like, because sometimes somebody performing at 70% still better than somebody else at 100%. Things of that nature. So you're looking at performance, getting them back on the field. It's a triage during the season.
Yeah.
So I definitely had thoughts of wanting to, work in the professional ranks and things of that nature, but I don't enjoy the idea of just like triaging and trying to get somebody back on the field for the team. I want to keep it pure. I want to keep it where it's between the player and I. Like I want to keep it or the family or their medical team. I don't want to just push, you have to get back out there because for the team's sake, for them to make money, for them to win, for them to make the playoffs. Like the next guy should be able to perform, maybe not the same as you, but enough to get that job done. Yeah. And the team should have prepared him. So that whole Tua situation really, really sucked because I'm like, how the heck did we have this huge push in concussion changes and how we hit people and things from the 2010, 2011 lockout, make all this progress and still are making the same damn mistakes from back when.
Yeah. Yeah. So I've never had a concussion ever, right? I've done a number of sports but they were all like, track and field, or cross country, whatever else. Basketball is probably the most contact-based sport I ever played, right? And that's not really a concussion-based sport. But the last couple of guests we had on the show, we had a boxer, Kiara, who had a concussion. I kind of held her on hold for boxing for a little bit. We had Tiki Barber on the show, the last episode before you. He talked about concussions as well. And now you talking about concussions, right? And all the things that you've gone through. I'm just curious now as a therapist, right? When you see people who are either trying to avoid these things or have gone through concussions or concussion protocol, what are some of the things that you're showing them or would be showing them in your clinic? And what are some of the signs that you're looking for when you see someone come in your clinic and say, oh, maybe I have a headache or I have a history of concussions, just want to kind of see what's going on? now that you have this platform between the lines, you have all the equipment and the knowledge base for these things. What's a typical protocol or a typical assessment that you do for athletes or even, regular people who are coming in mentioning concussion-like symptoms and signs?
So concussion symptoms are subjective. So you're doing your best and you're having that going about it diligently, just trying to collect as much information as you possibly can as far as what their symptoms are. Are there key words that they're saying, like, is the room is spinning? Like there's dizziness and then the room is spinning. And then you're like, okay, that's going to push me towards vestibular stuff. Like I'm thinking there's something going on with the inner ear. And then you're also looking at different assessments like the bombs, where we're looking at ocular motor, how the eyes are tracking. Is it saccadic? How's it beating? Is the eyes beating one way when they look one way, or is it beating no matter which way they look? Because then you're like, oh crap, it's now central. Now we're thinking a little bit more extreme, right? And possibly referring out in that case. So I do my due diligence as far as testing, doing subjective, testing the ocular motor, testing the neck. Neck's a huge role because that plays a role in that dizziness as well, and testing that inner ear. Just trying to narrow down what should take priority as far as our treatment, because they're all going to be involved in the concussion. Like it's rare that it's one thing. They're all playing a role. So once I gather that information, say it's with a kid and the parents in the room, I'm over here explaining as I'm going through what I'm looking for, what I'm seeing, and making sure they're well versed as far as what to expect. And then there's a lot of patient education, especially in that initial eval. I try to at least give them something to do, for home, introduce it here at the clinic, but something for home, because the assessment, I feel like, takes about 45 minutes if I'm doing it diligently, which I would never subpar that because it's my baby. Right. So, that gives us 15 minutes to go over some type of exercise, introduce them to it, talk about some symptom management stuff. So that's typically what that looks like. It's just being very diligent and direct as far as my approach and collecting as much information. So the next time I see them, I have a better formulated game plan. I can tell, like, we should dress vestibular greater than anything. And then I'm just using, and then, we start using those tools where, say they have motion sensitivity, we can throw them on the roller coaster with VR and let's start at 10 miles per hour. Okay, I'm doing fine at 10. Let's jump to 20 miles per hour. Okay, I'm doing at 20, work our way until we bump up against that. They start feeling some symptoms and then we back off and we stay right there. And if that's going fine, then we start throwing some other stuff. Okay, so I'm gonna ask you questions while this is rolling. Mm-hmm. That cognitive aspect. Okay, I'm gonna give you the hand ones and you're gonna have to shoot for this one kid, shoot the aliens that pop up off the roller coaster. Like, you have to focus on that. Just trying to find a way to progress the patient, but do it in a safe way. And that's kind of what I'm all about. And then we also do some type of stress testing, whether that's kicking the soccer ball and running up and down the turf while answering cognitive stuff. Once we feel like you're ready for it. So there's a lot that goes into that assessment. And I'm just pulling that information as far as those tests, what the person likes, and trying to create a treatment plan that meets both to help that patient get back to on the field, return to school, which is a big one because everybody thinks just return to play. I mean, mostly every athlete is a student athlete. So they're student first, athlete second. We got to be able to get you back to school first before we worry about getting back to the field.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I don't really have a lot of experience with the virtual stuff, the VR stuff. We didn't do a lot of those things when I was in school at all, but it's clearly trending now and becoming a bigger thing, not just in terms of healthcare, but also in terms of, natural, regular activities. So many people are doing more VR things in terms of their everyday lives. So It makes sense that we're doing those things. And I'm impressed at how we can combine the virtual reality with our current level of PT knowledge to trigger, all the systems and really get us back to doing, like you said, back to school and back to sports. So that's great. That's great. I'm someone who really likes all these things, and it's occurred to me that, there are a lot of pop-up spots like Between the Lines and others who are going to be changing this healthcare game. And I love it. I think that the whole theme that you're saying about resetting, relearning, and reinforcing is a big one. And I think that's something that we all try to do as clinicians. We try to do those things, and we may do them inadvertently, but having the mantra of making sure that that's going to be the everyday process for every patient, I think is key, because some of us really get caught in just trying to do the relearning and the reinforcing, right? Trying to reinforce your behaviors, trying to relearn certain things, but not really resetting and getting back to that beginning of whatever you have to do, whether it's talking about concussion therapy or protocols, just talking about a regular standard knee problem or ankle problem or back problem. Really resetting the system is a good thing. And I think I lose sight of that sometimes as a clinician, because sometimes we're so focused on the problem and trying to fix the problem, but really having a reset button, whether you're talking about, an injury or an issue, or even something that is based on vestibular or even internal, those things are key. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because that just gives me a better insight of, even for me, looking at trying to reset other systems for my patients. So I love the theme. I love the mantra. I think it's great. And I know that you work together with, you're not by yourself. You have a co-owner who's also part of your team, right? Your wife, Tina. So what's that like, working with her and now starting this baby along with your new baby from the ground up? How's that going?
It's going well. My wife has been an A1, all-star. She did most of the decorations. She had this vision with her and a good friend to, change this clinic to what it looks like today. It was very 1984, brown carpet, things of that nature. Of course, she put me in the manual labor with all these changes, but she had this vision for what a clinic should look like, what we should look like as a PT clinic. And she keeps things in check, because sometimes, and I'm at fault. Oh shoot, we need another BFR thing. We need another one of these. Well, and she's like, you know what? Let's calm down until we get enough. Bring another PT in when we need actually another one. Because if I need to do bilateral limb stuff, I have ball air bands and things of that nature. Are they the same as the Delphi? No, but they get the job done. So she's very reasonable in that regard. And I love having my wife here when she's here, and we just get to talk about like what's our game plan for next week. What's our marketing push? Because as a business owner, I can't just worry about the patients. I got to also think about the business and getting the name out there. So we're just doing this big marketing push and had videographers and things of that nature. So she does a great job of keeping things in line and keeping things in perspective for me, because I had this grandiose vision. Like, I'm already thinking about knocking this wall out next door and eating into the spot there. She was like, well, we got 3 years. Let's focus on our walls now. Yeah. And then when we get closer to it, then you can have that is a great goal to have, but let's not talk about eating into it already within year one. Right. So, right. So yeah, it's been great. And she's Dayton, our young one, she comes and helps out, because sometimes she's with Tina when she comes to work. So, I have Dayton's high chair in here. And so there's things in here that Dayton can play with when it's downtime. So, it's great. And then, the other kiddos, Lily especially has helped with. She just picked out the pictures to go into our other private treatment room. There's like 20 of them. So we're going to have 20 little skeleton deals that she decided on. So we have a piece of the family in every single aspect of this clinic. And that's what I want to do. Like, I want to make sure family stays part of it. There's some people that believe that business before family. And I'm not that guy. Like, if something happens, say my oldest has a call with me and he's pressing, like, I will step away from a patient to make sure I take care of it. And like, yeah, we will pick this back up. Just give me a few minutes, because my family is gonna come first. And I would hope to never lose sight of that, because my family is why I'm here. I got out of the league with the concussions so I could be an active dad. So I could be the same dad that I was with my oldest as I am with for my youngest, to play with them, cheer at their game, to be active and not worry about, symptoms and being fogged out or irritated all the dang time or something along those lines. I wanted to give them the same dad that Jaden got, as we're pretty much starting anew to get back to 17, 18 years old with Dayton. So that's why I made that ultimate decision, is for the family, especially with those residual symptoms I still had going on, and just having that in perspective. I'm making this decision for my family so I can be a part of their life.
Yeah, that's a big time statement, David. I talk to a friend of mine pretty often about being Superman at home and being Superman at the job. And I think that sometimes, and you could probably test this as well, because bring back some football for you, right? As a Super Bowl champ, I'm sure you went hard when you were training. You were just all over it. You were in it to win it. Nothing was something that you weren't going to do. You was all over it. You were Superman on the field. And then sometimes, we as fathers, as now business owners, right, we get into this situation where we feel like we have to do that for our job as well. We're just giving our job our all. And sometimes when you go home, there's nothing left because you've given everything to this baby. But in actuality, you have other babies and other things at home. So being Superman at home and being Superman at your work is sometimes difficult to balance. And, I'm always curious for those who are in a situation that's similar to me. I'm not a business owner in the sense of having a brick and mortar like you, but, there are a number of therapists who listen to the show and watch this show who also want to go out there and do their own businesses and start their own startups and have a brick and mortars as well, but they're afraid. They're afraid of the things that you're talking about. They're afraid of not being able to balance, home and work, not being able to be a Superman at home and at the job, not being able to have time for family, and not being able to really balance what the healthcare demands are when it comes to reimbursements, to insurances, to patient numbers, to all those different things. Also make sure you take care of your family, but by also giving your family time at the end of your day in terms of energy, in terms of all those things. So how are you balancing this thing? What tips would you share with people who are trying to say, you know what, I want to go out there and do my own thing, but I'm afraid that it's not going to be successful, because we know that just talking to other owners, it takes a couple months to really bring in some money. We know these things, right? But also just looking at the time that it takes to really put into building a practice and making it successful the way you want to make it. So as you've now been doing this for a year, you've been out and really doing your own thing between the lines, what are some thoughts and maybe some tips you can share with the listeners about success and what success looks like for someone who's trying to really start up and begin a new legacy?
I mean, I think the big thing for me when I decided that I was going to do my own thing, my wife and I decided we were going to do our own thing, was, do we take insurance or do we take cash? And then we looked at a business coach and put together a financial sheet and seen what it would look like per month to reach a certain dollar to break even. Say rent was $3,500 a month, and with also paying myself and paying my wife, things of that nature. Just honestly honing in on the number of patients you have to see per day to break even. So we looked at it where, okay, there's 19 working days a month on average. Some months are 20, some are 21, but most of the time it's around that 19. So we looked at, okay, for insurance with reimbursement here in Colorado, on average is between $50-$60 per patient. So you're looking at that, my average per day, I'd have to see 13. So I wouldn't see actual profit to put back into the business and everything unless I got 18 consistently. That forces me to reduce patient care to 30 minutes. Now I'm having to turn and burn day in and day out. Look at it with the cash-based deal. You set a price point comparative to the market. You do all your research and diligence there. Right now, at our current price, I have to see 4.1 patients a day to break even. The max I can see in my hour-long sessions, because I'll work 10 hours, but I have that hour lunch, is 10 people. I'm going to be fresh. If I get to that point where I'm seeing 10 people a day, I'm going to be fresher at 10 than that person who's seeing that 18 at the end of the day. And now I'm ready. I'm able to go home, and I'm like, I still have all this energy. I didn't burn through patients left and right, having to recharge, having to shove food down my throat real quick to get back to the next patient. I have energy there. I think if the reimbursement was a little different here in Colorado, say it was around the 80, 90, then it would be a different conversation. I'd have to see 1.5 patients per one patient to make that even. So you have to weigh it as far as what's more important to you in regards to, or do you feel like you're going to get burnt out? What's your 5-year goal? Can you sustain that for 5 years? Can you sustain 18 people a day for 5 years on top of opening up a business, on top of the marketing, on top of if you have a family or want to start a family? Like, I feel like a lot of business owners lose the sight of reality when it comes to the time that comes with opening up a business. It's not just patient care. And I knew there was going to be some things I had to do, but there's actually been more than I even expected. And I expected to still do a lot. I have to do a lot. So you have to be realistic with yourself as far as what's important, what's priority, and are you trying to make big bucks? Are you trying to make sure the family's good and sustainable? Like, what is your goal? And my goal was, I didn't want to be burnt out. I didn't want to feel like crap and not be able to go to a soccer match or take the kids to daddy-daughter dance or anything like that. I didn't want to get to that point where I'm gassed. And I was in a few clinics where towards the end of my clinical rotation, I was seeing 16 to 18 people a day. And then having to do those notes, so it's eating into your family time or you're staying up. I was like, no, I can't live like that. I won't live like that. I don't think PT should be like that because you're not giving them true quality care. Sure, if it's an upper trap tension from lifting, sure, that could be quick. But, there's other things that go on with a person aside from just that trigger point, from just this hurts. Well, why it hurts? Why is this? So I kind of just weighed it out with my wife. Like, we decided to do it this way. Understanding insurance is a headache and a nightmare. We had our reasons to go cash based, but you have to I think my biggest advice is set realistic time goals. It's like, do you really feel like you're going to be able to have a family or be involved in your family, seeing 18 people a day and being 100% within? There's some people who can, like you said, as dads, like we always got to be super, right? We go to work, we're super there, come home. The kids don't just want to chill. They want, okay, dad's home, we're going to roughhouse. Like, that's what it is. Like, there's no like, oh, let's bake this, let's do this, let's do arts and crafts. No, it's like legit Royal Rumble and that thing. Let's go to the bed. Let's, suplex, things of that nature. Yeah. So, and I want to do that. So that's why I refuse to put myself in a position where, I couldn't do that. I would be so tired from doing that. There's no way.
I got you. No, you're absolutely right. I come home, my daughter's like, all right, daddy, we're going to go upstairs. We're going to play tag first.
Yeah.
And then we're going to have you throw me on the bed.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a game, huh? Yeah. You can throw me on the bed a lot of times.
Yeah, a lot of times.
No problem. And then we'll play.
Is a lot subjective, like a lot for me, or is it a lot for you?
But yeah, you're right. It's that you want to come home to that. You want to come home and you want to be 100% for all of that, because someone told me, and they made it very simple. They said, you have 18 summers. You have roughly 18 summers, right? Yep. With your daughter, your son, whoever. And then after that, things are kind of, weird. It's college and whatever else happens after that. But you have 18 summers of really just enjoying all of this stuff. So enjoy all of it. Enjoy all of it to the max and make sure you don't miss all the things. And then, yeah, I agree with you. There are many times where I said to myself, look, I'm missing out all the things. I'm up late at night doing these notes. I'm not really having time just to be present. I'm in the room, we're in the house, but I'm in a different room catching up on whatever else. And I wasn't feeling that. So I made some adjustments on my end to make sure I could do that. But the bigger picture, I think, for you as you do this between the lines thing is that you have now this entire structure that you control. And now this is your baby, and you can do what you want to do to share your knowledge and your experience with your patients, and then structure it well enough so that you can still have time for family. And I appreciate that so much. And it's great. It's great. It's great. It's great. I've talked to a number of athletes who come on the show who've been through concussions before. And one of the things that does come up is CTE, right? And now that you are a therapist looking at people who have gone through concussions, and as a player, right, a Super Bowl champ has also gone through concussions himself. I'm curious for you if you have continued to experience anything as a result of the concussion you've had in terms of memory loss, depression, any of those things that when we talk about CTE, again, chronic traumatic encephalopathy, and those things that come with concussions, that we see as we diagnose people, posthumously, but a number of NFL players and others who've been through this have experienced things as they've gotten older. So, I'm curious for you, as now you've stepped away from the game, you've gotten into a career that you love and adore, and you're able to share experience with other patients. Do you experience any lasting effects from the days that you played? And if so, would you mind just sharing what some of those things may be?
Yeah, I still experience a few things. One being headaches. I get these almost and sometimes debilitating headaches. Once, twice a week. I have convergence deficiency, so I get a chance to show that to a patient where my left eye doesn't track. That's one of those oculomotor things that you would look at with a patient. I did have a stretch where I did have a little irritability. Things really got under my skin that never would. Like my tone is just chill. Like that's just my tone, and I rarely get worked up, but something would just set me off. And then, early on in my schooling after calling it quits from the league, I had a hard time with learning. Like just that pathway of learning was completely different and changed. Like I was always that guy. I was called a nerd in the locker room where, I would see something, I would be able to process pretty much all of it, and not just my position, but every other position around there. So it got to a point where like I could go out there and play linebacker. I played DN for a game versus the Chargers one year, maybe twice that year. Played dime linebacker most of 2015 when we won the Super Bowl. Played safety. Played corner some in college. Like that was just my thing. Like I took the classroom as seriously as on the field because I know the more I could do, the longer my career could be, the more value I brought to the team. It couldn't be any more real when you get to the league, when you're talking about money, talking about player numbers, talking about cap space. Like, couldn't be any more real than that. So I've definitely I still experience some symptoms from the concussions. Memory, trying to retain information, definitely have to see things a couple times, have to write it down a couple times. Can't just type it on the computer, actually have to write it a couple times, just for something to more so stick, highlight it, things of that nature.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I don't think about these things at all because, again, never had a concussion ever in my life. But when you talk about people who have concussions and what they go through, once they get back into playing or back to school, right, they're cleared. We don't really talk about the lasting effects that happen after that because we think, oh, well, they're back on the field, they're back in the classroom, they're good to go. But the lasting effects that you're mentioning are things that are real things. And I think that it's good for us to highlight those. And I'm glad that, again, you're in this arena now where you can really share so much information, personal, and what you've learned to your patients because you've been there. You know what's going on. You've been there at a high level. I think it's one thing playing high school football or high school, whatever, but college, professionally, that's just a different mindset. It's a different league. It's a different level. And you being able to play that and experience what you went through and come back from all those things is a gem that you can share with so many people. So I appreciate you and I give you kudos for all you're doing. I think it's great. I'm excited for the work and the clinic. And I just want to, before we close out, just talk about the Bruton's books. I know you're still doing that. And I wanted to know how that's going. We talked about it last time on the show and I was really excited about what you were doing in the community. You're still doing Bruton's books. How's it going? And what's next for that journey for you?
We did have a golf outing in August. So literally, I spoke at a conference. We had a golf outing. I got the keys to the clinic all within 4 days. So it was a very busy weekend. We had a golf outing, our very first one, and actually turned out a good amount of money to fund tutors here in the Denver Public Schools. We raised roughly 34 grand from that golf outing. So we're looking to repeat it next year and keep funding tutors. So with that amount of money, we're able to fund the online tutoring and two in-person tutoring for 2 years at a Denver public school, an elementary school here in Denver. So that was huge. So our goal is for next year, try to double that and try to reach out into another school to give them that same type of grace, because Denver public schools is definitely struggling literacy wise. One of the lowest scores in the country as far as literacy. K through third grade continues to be our focus, trying to, you're learning to read in those years, and then you read to learn after that. So if you can't grasp it at that young age, you're already behind the 8 ball, because you're no longer just trying to learn to read. You're supposed to read to learn. So we're staying focused on that DPS area. We gave bikes away last spring for kids hitting their reading goals. We've done some appearances. We'll probably do the whole bike deal again next year. So that's kind of our plan moving forward. But still love it. Still love doing it. Still love focusing on childhood literacy, because it's near and dear to me.
That's great. And, David, you're really the embodiment of what Be More Today is all about. And that's why I had to have you on this show again to kick off this new year. And I asked you 2 years ago what the phrase Be More Today meant to you. And I'm sure it may be a little different now, because you're a doctor now, and it is what it is. But David Bruton Jr., Dr. David Bruton Jr., when you hear the phrase Be More Today, what does that phrase mean to you?
It still means go above and beyond. Don't fall into the norm. Don't fall into the routine. What can you do to be better? Whether that's 1%, whether that's opening up a book and just reading a little bit more on Achilles injuries. Oh, really? Sorry. Whether that's taking some time, just spending a little more time over that hour to give that patient some education, or being more present at your kiddo's soccer game and still being that wild, crazy parent over here cheering when they steal the ball or something along those lines. Just be more authentic, be yourself, be true, be real, be more.
Awesome. I love it. I love it. Dr. Bruton, what is next for you? What's on the agenda for 2023, either for Between the Lines or Bruton's books or anything else fan related?
What's the plan in 2023? Just keep building, keep putting our name out there for Between the Lines, trying to reach out there to more high schools and just have that access to care, and try to set forth some type of screening before kids start soccer season or football season. That's kind of our goal there, and try to get into a position where we are comfortable opening up one back in my hometown in Miamisburg, Ohio. So that's like our 2-3 year goal right there. So come 2023, end of 2023, 2024 sometime, we're hoping to be able to open one out there in Miamisburg, Ohio.
Awesome. Well, if you do that for sure, as you may remember, my wife is from Ohio, so maybe I'll meet you out there. We'll meet in person finally for the first time.
Yes, sir.
That'd be great. That'd be great. Doctor, I really appreciate you being on the show. You've made the kickoff for the season 1 for the books, and proud of all your work. Where can people learn more about you and your clinic, either on social media or otherwise?
On Instagram, it's Between the Lines _PT, and then the website is betweenthelines.pt.com, and then the charity website is BrutonsBooks.org. So we're all over the place. We stay busy, and then you can just find some of the good stuff on my own Instagram account with D_Bruton Jr 30 on Instagram. So yeah, we're doing it now, and I'm gonna be a lot more active on Instagram, because that's the way of the world, and it's different for me. But you gotta adapt.
That's it. You gotta adapt. All right, champ. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being on the show today. You made this kickoff 1 for the books, and I look forward to hearing more about your journey and about Between the Lines in the future.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you, man.
No problem. Folks, don't forget all the words he talked about. So many great things, right? He really talked about his why. The quote from today is simple. When you hold on to the why, the what and the how take care of themselves. He's done the work. He's done the school stuff. Now he's going to put his experience together and his passion for what he's been going through for the last couple of years into practice to help others to be more today. So like you said, be authentic, be you, be real. Go out there and make this year the year where you continue to take your steps to greatness to be the best version of you. As always, folks, you can visit us on BeMoreToday.com for my book, our swag store, our podcast. So everywhere, subscribe. Please, we appreciate all your love and support. And tune in next week as we join you again for another episode of the Be More Today show. As I always say, have a good day, have a good night, have a great life, and continue to take your steps to greatness to be the best version of you. We'll see you next week.